Alright, you void loving bastards, here is Void Knight build. This is a mod. Kudos to author of the mod. This class is absolutely amazing. It's so fun to play and it's got a really deep system going for it. Usually I would give you a build and then I would showcase. In this case I'm gonna do it reversed because I believe you need to see this first in action. For every other default preset or build that's in the game from the start, that's not a mod, you already know the skills, so I can go with the build immediately. This time it's completely different, so I want to show you guys how this works. And it's best on Paladin Bridge as always, and I'm not going to use Lone Wolf. Instead I'm going to use my whole party as a support party, while my Void Knight will do all the damage. So everyone else is a Geomancer and Hydrosophist, and they have a lot of points into Constitution as well. The only one that's gonna be doing any damage is my Void Knight. All the necessary skill books for Void Knight skills can be obtained on Lady Vengeance. There's a trader, you cannot miss her, really. In Fort Joy, trader is next to the cage in Fort Joy Square. So now you know where to get the skill books. Let's talk about these skills a bit, so that you can understand better how I'm gonna play this out. Every skill's got lots of properties. It might be overwhelming at first, but let me talk you through it. It's gonna make a lot of sense. Cool thing about these skills is that they can be built for intelligence, finesse or strength based characters. It's completely up to you. Right now I have stuff equipped. You can read the tooltip. There's water damage no matter what I do, except Black Hole, that one is unique. Black Hole is always physical and it always scales from strength. I don't know if that is intentional or not, but I think it should be changed so that it is the same as other skills too, because everything else changes depending on your weapon. Void Dagger Throw does, for example, piercing damage. So it doesn't matter what type of weapon you have. Now you can see that for most of these skills you need Warfare and Scoundrel. At least a couple of points into that. That's not an issue. So Staff is perfectly viable solution. But I'm gonna switch to my two-handed sword and everything changes. Everything is now physical damage and everything scales from strength. When I was wielding a staff, everything was scaling with intelligence. It's a beautiful setup and really author of this class is a bloody genius. And we haven't even got to the best part yet. You can be a bloody dragon, Void Dragon form, for 3 turns. I'm gonna show you that later in the fight. It's absolutely epic. You get 5 new skills and it's awesome. If you want to be a summoner Void Knight, that's fine. You have Shadow that you can summon and its stats depend on the caster level and summoning ability. You can also sacrifice Shadow to get boosts for yourself. The main thing about this whole class is that you can stack void marks on your target. Some of these abilities inflict void mark stack. When you stack 4 void marks on a target, then every subsequent ability used on that target that's got empowered property will do that empowered version of the spell. That can be extremely powerful, and if played right, it can destroy any enemy. There's also Siphoning Aura. It gives you some buffs and it also weakens nearby enemies if they do not have physical armor. Weakened status effect is resisted by physical armor. Also there's an ability to knock down enemies. Void Push, to push enemies in a cone. That way you can avoid some of the attacks of opportunity. It's a very flexible class that's got also a lot of mobility. So without further ado, let's start the show. As I said, I'm only going to use my main guy to inflict damage. We have here an ability that is similar to Onslaught. It's called Marking Strikes. You'll swing 5 times, inflicting physical damage per hit. And if you hit for at least 4 times during that onslaught, enemy will receive 4 void marks. That's a good starting point. That way you can see what 4 void marks do. That's the maximum amount you can have. They get a significant debuff to their resistances. As I said, the rest of the guys I'll only use for buffs and heals, and that's it. So I'm gonna skip everything, I'm just gonna focus on turns with the Void Knight. Right now these guys got 4 Void Mark stacks. When enemies got 4 Void Mark stacks, then Empowered property will come in play. Void Sword is the most damaging ability from Void Knight, and it costs 3 action points to perform. If it is empowered, it will inflict bonus piercing damage. As I said, empowered can be done only when enemies got 4 Void Mark stacks. It will also consume those Void Mark stacks. We even did a crit, and we did over 1000 piercing damage and over 7000 physical damage. Not bad at all, right? And we still have 1 action point remaining, so we can use that to use something like a Void Jump, Void Dagger Throw, Void Strike. One thing that I did not mention yet is that some of these skills have additional properties. Void Dagger Throw can, for example, inflict bleeding for 2 turns. If we use Void Dagger Throw, we will inflict bleeding on this bastard over here. If we would use then Void Strike after Void Dagger Throw, then you can see from the tooltip, if target is bleeding, it will inflict weak for 2 turns. So you can combine a lot of these different status effects to make your enemy cry. This guy's currently got weakened status effect. Now I'm not sure how that occurred, because it doesn't say in Void Sword that it will weaken the target. It just says that if it's an empowered version, it will inflict bonus piercing damage. So I have no idea how that occurred, but doesn't matter. Weakened is good. You can also inflict weakened on nearby enemies by using Siphoning Aura, which I will do later on. For now I'm gonna skip the turn to get myself that 1 action point for the next turn. Now that the enemies are bunched up together, I can use some pretty cool stuff. Let's do Infused Void Dagger, where you're basically the dagger. It's a dashing ability that can set bleeding if you destroy enemies' physical armor in the process. So you essentially throw yourself at the enemy. It only costs it costs 2 action points. Did not see that. Anyway, now I'm gonna use Black Hole, and if you have Savage Sortilege, it can crit. Not much damage from it, but it's a very efficient spell that can prepare a lot of nasty stuff. I like the fact that the spells are not so goddamn overpowering. There are some beautiful things we can do with all of it. When Black Hole is used, it's best to follow up with something like Orbit. But I don't have enough action points for that. I do have lots of other abilities that cost only 1 action point. Void Strike is as well a dashing ability, but I don't want to use that. Wouldn't get any benefit from it. I can use Void Jump to inflict more damage on these bastards. Foot Sweeper would be excellent here, unfortunately not enough action points, but I can use this, Void Dagger Throw. It inflicts piercing damage, and it will jump to nearby targets. Now that everyone is bunched up like this together, I have a lot of options. Most of these bastards have actually they don't have such low physical armor, but doesn't matter. We can use something like this, summon spikes from the ground. If target is weak, it will inflict ruptured tendons. So let's try to make some of these bastards weak. We will do Siphoning Aura. 2 of these bastards are weak, because they don't have any more physical armor to resist the Siphoning Aura. And now I can use something like this. Orbit. Perform a spinning attack, dealing physical damage and pushing enemies away. If target is weak, it will inflict knockdown for 1 turn. So there we go, we pushed some of these bastards away from us. And now there's something like a battle stomp where we knock down enemies in cone. Definitely very useful ability. And it really looks cool. It looks much better than Battle Stomp in my opinion. When you summon that void something from the ground. I like it. Now that I've given you pretty much a rundown of all the abilities, let's summon Shadow so that you can see what Shadow does. It's a MMA Shadow. It likes to fight, strikes with bare hands and feet. Really cool, I like it. I'll also use Void Spikes, because, well, look at this, why not? We managed to get Healer to Void Mark 4, so no matter what we use next, he's gonna receive a status effect that he won't like. If I was to use this, it would inflict bonus piercing damage, as you can see from the empowered description. But I don't want to do that now. What I want to do is finally transform into dragon form. It's time to wreck these bastards properly. Dragon looks really cool. No complaints there at all. You get 5 new skills. Currently I don't have enough action points to do anything, but this is what dragon form gives you. Now it's Shadow turn. It will not do much damage because it scales with summoning ability. It's got some basic stuff like Void Push, Void Jump, and we can swap, and it can swap places with the summoner. That's us. But I love the fact that it does unarmed attacks. Now it's time to showcase you the abilities of this bloody dragon. Unfortunately I'm crippled, so I cannot do Void Dragon Jump and I cannot do Flight. Mini Void Fireball is your basic attack. As you can see, when you're in dragon form you have atrophy skill. It prevents you from using weapons. So that's your basic attack. Everything else has got a cooldown. And it's really bloody powerful. This would be a perfect attack now to use if I could move, but I cannot move. I'm bloody crippled. I do have some possibilities like Void Fireball, which will damage everyone here. I don't care about my own health. And Shadow's health. Let's just wreck these bastards. Well, that was quite epic. Well, that was in the end a giant fail. Killed myself, killed Beast. I did kill a lot of them. But there you go. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you other abilities from the dragon, but one is when he flies over enemies and does attack in a cone. Very cool move. And another one is Void Dragon Jump, when he jumps on top of enemies with his body weight and knocks down enemies in the process. That's it. That's the Void Knight. As for the build, obviously depends on what you want to focus. Do you want to use staff for the intelligence build, or do you want to use strength based or finesse based weapons? It also matters if you want to have your shadow at its maximum capability. To make this short and clear, let's start with talents. I think this is the most important thing here. What I would definitely do, doesn't matter what type of build you're using, I would go for Savage Sortilege, Executioner, Hothead and opportunist, if you're using a weapon that can do attack of opportunity. The last one is up to you. Stench is good if you're a DPS Void Knight, which I believe you should be. It's a great DPS class. And to get rid of some of the attention that you get on yourself, Stench is always a good option. If you want something else, Walk It Off is good. Picture of Health if you're using warfare based build. That's about it. What I will focus on are Executioner, Hothead, Opportunist and Savage Sortilege. From the combat abilities, you're gonna have to have 3 points into warfare for all Void Knight abilities. If you want to focus on summoning, then obviously you'd want to max out summoning. You don't get anyone special at the last level from what I can see. More points you put into summoning, the better Shadow will be. If you want to go down the same route like I did, True Knight with strength based two-handed weapon, then you want to max out warfare. Ignore the summoning, because you won't need it. And it's useless pretty much if you summon it at its lower levels. It costs 2 action points, and for those 2 action points you could do something else, something more efficient. So what you need here is warfare at maximum, put the rest of the points into two-handed and get yourself 1 point into Scoundrel. Scoundrel is required for some of these abilities, so you need at least 1 point into Scoundrel. And this depends on what type of weapon you're gonna use. Obviously, if you're using strength-based weapon, you're gonna put points into strength. If you're using finesse-based, you're finesse, intelligence, blah blah blah. You all know the drill already. The rest of the points put into wits. From the skills, really you don't need anything. You just need skills from the Void Knight class, because there's a lot of them, and rarely you'll have everything on cooldown. If you want to use the staff and do magic damage, then it depends on the element of your staff. If it's water damage that you're dealing, then everything will deal here water damage. To maximize the damage potential, obviously you want to put all the points into intelligence. And also leave 3 points into warfare so that you can get access to all the necessary skills. Plus add the remaining points into Hydrosophist, because it will directly boost your water damage. If you're using stuff that does fire damage, then obviously you're gonna put points into Pyrokinetic. And so on and so on. You get the drill. For finesse based weapons like spears and daggers, the setup is the same as with strength based weapon. Just put points into warfare and the rest into two-handed, while 1 point needs to be into Scoundrel, be it from gear or directly from the points. For the first region of the game, Forge and Hollow Marshes, the only thing that you need to focus from attributes is your damage attribute, depending on the weapon that you're wielding. So it's either strength, finesse or intelligence. Just focus on that throughout the whole region. To get all the skills necessary, you're going to need 3 points into warfare and 1 point into Scoundrel. Summoning, obviously, if you want to focus on the summon. But warfare and Scoundrel are the most important. Early in the game you won't be able to buy all the skills from the Void vendor, because they unlock same as other skills in the game for other presets. It all depends on your level. How many skills can you acquire from a vendor? No matter what weapon you're using, you're gonna need 2 points into warfare and 1 point into Scoundrel for the skills. So that should be your priority. After that, it depends on the weapon. If you're using staff, it's all about the damage that staff deals. So if you want to focus on fire staff, then keep putting points into Pyrokinetic until you max it out. If you're using finesse or strength weapon, then focusing warfare throughout the first region is the best option. Later on the second region and onward, two-handed is fantastic because it directly affects the damage from two-handed weapons and crit multiplier, but only when you start raising your crit chance. Talents at the beginning of the game that I would choose would be Opportunist and Executioner. Obviously Opportunist doesn't work with wands, so if you have wands, forget about Opportunist and go for Executioner. From level 2 and onward, all skilled up and bigger and better are good for the first region, as always. And that's really it. If you feel like you can go glass cannon, go for it, but then you need to have a tank at your side, and I would definitely suggest Stench as well, next to that glass cannon. Stench helps tremendously to keep bastards off your back. That's it, that's the whole bloody build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. Special thanks to my patrons. It's a fantastic class. You can play this class however you want. This is just my version how to maximize void damage. And that's it. See you all bastards soon.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.